We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspired Change with Gunter. If your organisation cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self-development and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspired Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number 1 in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner-Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. That's me, I'm your host. So I'm not sure if everybody's seen Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere. I'm assuming that if you're into this podcast, you probably have. And to put it bluntly, I'm just going to join a host of others who've reviewed and made comments about the documentary. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to throw my 2 cents in as well. So I want to do it with basically 2 lenses in hand. And that is, the first one's my Making Good Men Great framework, particularly the 5 patriarchal pillars: territory, hierarchy, acquisition, competition, and combativeness. The other lens that I want to bring in is actually Rutger Bregman's argument on moral ambition. That ambition is not the problem, but misdirected ambition is. And we need to aim our drive at meaningful contributions and not just the status theatre. And yes, as always, I'm going to be fairly critical of the Manosphere. But I'm also going to name the parts that Theroux's documentary actually got okay. In a weird way, it sort of got it right on one level. Because if we don't understand its appeal, we cannot compete with it. We can't get a handle on how to, counterbalance this, how to diffuse it, how to inoculate young boys and young men especially to those sorts of ideas. So Theroux enters a digital ecosystem that functions like a recruitment funnel. It pulls men in through pain, confusion, loneliness, sexual rejection, financial anxiety, and a sense of humiliation. Now, he's not the one actually doing that. He's exploring this. And the documentary begins to offer a very simple worldview through the people that he actually interviews. And the worldview is this: women are the problem, softness is weakness, and dominance is the answer.
the documentary is a sharp introduction to how widespread these ideas have become and how influencers package them as lifestyle advice and truth-telling. And we see this also within the political arena. You know, I don't need to pull out names, although I will. Trump, in Australia, One Nation is having a resurgence, and they have no policies. They've never really contributed to anything politically of any importance, but they have these clickbait, simplistic things like get rid of this or get rid of that or do this, without any real sort of intellectual or social consciousness. So a fair critique that I saw from a lot of reviewers is that the documentary spends a lot of time with performers and less time with the collateral damage, partners, girls, women, and also young men who lose their social and emotional range under this ideology. And it is an ideology. Patriarchy is a moral, immoral, amoral, pick which one you think, ideology that, you know, is an economy in a way. And you'll understand more about this as I go along. So here's my takeaway. The film is useful as an X-ray of the messaging. But here's the problem. An X-ray doesn't show you what it feels like to live with a fracture. So let's translate the Manosphere into making good men great language. If you listen carefully, the same 5 pillars keep repeating. It is ad nauseum. So firstly, they're all about territory. My space, my rules. It shows up in an entitlement to women's bodies, to attention, to emotional labour, and to a world that is meant to reward men for just being men. Although some would argue that, you know, the whole value argument comes up about, you know, men have to create value, right? They miss the point that human beings are of value in of themselves, that then is actually develops, evolves according to what they do. And what the Manosphere is proposing that they do is off. It's toxic. The next one's hierarchy. There's this constant ranking, high value, low value, winners, losers, alphas and betas. All of which, in many respects, especially the alpha stuff, is just nonsense. It's a sort of perverted evolutionary biological and psychological proposition. If you can be ranked according to this worldview, you can be shamed, and shame is a powerful lever for control, which gives them dominance. Make sense? Think about it. The next one's acquisition, and this stood out blatantly. So you acquire money, women, followers, cars, watches, all the visible symbols that stand in, that compensate for inner stability. It is materialism gone berserk. Now, part of the process is the next pillar is competition. So everyone's a rival, including your friends. So even intimacy becomes a contest in this perverted view of how things are. The final pillar that I talk about in making good men great is combativeness. So the tone from these people, from these influencers, generally is adversarial. The world's a fight, relationships are negotiations. Empathy is framed as weakness. Remember Elon Musk. Empathy is bad. So this is the ideology, but here's the psychological engine underneath it. The Manosphere offers a defense against vulnerability. Right? It turns sadness into contempt. It turns fear into bravado. It turns rational longing into strategies. It's tactical. Now, don't get me wrong, in some areas in our life, there are absolutely times where we need to be strategic and tactical, and we need to feel the fear and do it anyway. But that comes from a sense of self-awareness in order to be flexible, in order to adapt, and in order to maintain resilience. So, if you want the deeper clinical point, the psychological point, it often recruits men at the exact moment they are most suggestible, after rejection, humiliation, job loss, social isolation, or an identity wobble. Now, we have to be honest about this here. The Manosphere does not grow because it has nothing to offer. It grows because it offers three things mainstream culture often fails to give men. First, it names the male pain. It says you're not crazy, you're not alone, and that part is especially important. Secondly, it offers structure. It gives you rules, scripts, a sense of direction. Many men are starving for initiation and mentorship. And this is a gateway into that space. Now, third, it encourages effort, gym, discipline, competence. Now, I've done a podcast on the trap of competence that gives you value as a human being. Now, for some men, that's the first time anyone said to them, you can change your life. So it's seductive. But then it poisons the gains by attaching them to dominance, to control, to coercion. It takes legitimate needs and attaches a corrosive explanation to them. This is what I've called the rise of the shadow manipulators. People who provide simplistic solutions to complex problems and get rewarded with attention, money, and influence. They try to sell certainty, and in many respects they do. People buy it. They sell an enemy. They sell a fantasy of invulnerability. So where to? Well, I did a podcast on Rutger Bregman's moral ambition. And this is where his stuff becomes really useful. He argues for moral ambition, putting talent and drive at the service of meaningful causes rather than prestige, ego, and performative success. Now, I've actually drawn in my framework a distinction between ambition and aspiration. Okay, so I could be accused of, nitpicking, but in this context, I'm going to stay with Rutger's language. So if you translate that into masculinity, the question isn't, should men be ambitious? The question is, what should men be ambitious for? The Manosphere takes male ambition and chains it to a brittle project. Status, sexual conquest, superiority, and a revenge on the people who once made you feel small. It is ambition aimed at the mirror. Reflect on that. No pun intended. Moral ambition is ambition aimed at contribution. It is the move from how do I win to what do I build. It is the move from dominance to stewardship. And again, that is an important factor in our current history and geopolitical and ecological life. And this is where Making Good Men Great and Bregman quietly meet, in my view. It is the move from how do I win to what do I build. And that means we are not trying to lower men. We are trying to lift the target. Aim your strength at something that makes your life bigger, not narrower. So the clinical critique of this is, and I'm going to put it really bluntly, the Manosphere trains men to be unsafe in relationship. It teaches men to interpret a partner's need as manipulation. It teaches men to interpret their own tenderness as a weakness. And it teaches men that empathy is a tactic and not a virtue. Now, in this context, let me differentiate. We're talking fundamentally about cognitive empathy, which I can then use as a lever in this worldview. Over time, this creates a man who can perform confidence but cannot do repair. He can argue, but he cannot attune. He can control, but he cannot connect. And that leads to a strange outcome. The ideology that promises men women often leaves men more alone, because it corrodes the very skill that creates lasting love. What do these guys don't get? That their behaviour actually alienates women. I mean, I don't think you need to be a Rhodes Scholar to pick up that when you're an asshole, women don't want to be around you. They might get attracted because they're misreading the signals, because they've been also tainted by patriarchy. But it doesn't take long before the penny clicks and they're looking for a way out. So, in closing, what do I want to say? Well, if you've watched Theroux's documentary and felt conflicted, that's actually a good sign. It means you're thinking. My invitation is simple. Do not underestimate the lure of these spaces, especially for boys and young men. But also do not treat the men inside them as monsters. Many of them are wounded, many are lonely, and many are being sold a story that will make their lives smaller, not bigger, not enriched. So the point with Making Good Men Great is not about shaming men out of patriarchy, out of the manosphere. It's about offering something better, clearer, stronger, and above all, more human. And on that note, I'm going to sign off today. Make whatever you wish with it. I encourage you to watch it if you haven't. Think about the reviewers that you might also look up, and think about this through the lens that I've presented to you. And on that note, till next time, this is me signing off.
You know, on this show, we talk a lot about living with purpose, slowing down, paying attention, and being intentional about the choices we make every day. Because when we simplify the noise around us, we can better hear what really matters. Empathy, connection, and showing up as the best version of ourselves. That's why I'm genuinely pleased to welcome our newest sponsor, Distill Union. Their philosophy aligns beautifully with what we do here. Distill Union creates slick, thoughtfully designed essentials, wallets, key organizers, phone cases, all built with a less is more approach. Their Wally wallets, Ferris key organizers, these are everyday tools that make life easier, cleaner, and calmer. In that simplicity, there's space for clarity. There's space for change. As a thank you to our Inspire Change community, they're offering 20% off any product with the promo code INSPIRECHANGE. Have a look. Try them out and see how simplifying your day can open the door to something deeper. Visit distillunion.com and enjoy 20% off any product with the promo code INSPIRECHANGE. That's distillunion.com with promo code INSPIRECHANGE to check out.
Hello to all our listeners. We thank you for tuning in and supporting positive social change, which makes you a part of Gunter's efforts in transforming not only men's lives, but lives in general, and we are grateful you have joined us. This week, we would like to share our gratitude with our listeners from Louisville for bringing Kentucky to number 9 on our top 10 USA listeners list. Congratulations! We thank you so much for your continued support as we appreciate your efforts toward positive social change. I, Devonna Prinzi, the co-executive producer, and our showrunner, Miranda Spigner-Sapone, sincerely thank you and ask that you please take the time to like, follow, subscribe, and share as your efforts make the difference to everyone here at Inspire Change with Gunter. We would love to hear your stories of social change and ask that you reach out to the show directly. Please see the show notes for our contact information. We look forward to hearing from you. If these stories resonate with you and you would like to engage more with Gunter and the Inspire Change team, please consider joining our Patreon community where our members find bonus content and early access to video episodes. Membership awaits at patreon.com/inspire change. That's patreon.com/INSPIRECHANGE. As always, thank you to each and every one of our listeners, and most importantly, please keep inspiring positive social change.
Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.guntersvoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com.